After 5 years of van life, what have we learned? What would we change about our self-converted Ford Transit campervan and how we do van life? Our tiny home on wheels has taken us to some pretty incredible places around the country. Join us as we gear up for another season of full-time travel and share some of the process with you. Hey you guys, we're Steve and Audra, and this month we are celebrating our 5th van-anniversary. That means we have had this van for 5 years. We are gearing up for our 3rd season of full-time van life. And before we get started, while we're mooch docking here with family, where we have some things in storage, we're doing a full audit of our van. We thought it'd be the perfect opportunity to share with you some of the things we have learned in the last 5 years. In March 2020, Steve flew up to Pennsylvania to get our van. It was an empty Enterprise rental cargo van. He drove it back just as everything was shutting down due to COVID. So it was the perfect timing to get the van. And right away we got to work converting it, and we started traveling as much as we could. Fast forward to August of 2023, and we went full-time on the road. We have had amazing experiences. We have put over 70,000 miles on the van, been to 34 states, and a few of our highlights include our very first longer trip to the Blue Ridge Mountains and Smoky Mountains.
We took a big trip out west. Some of the highlights were the Grand Canyon, Bryce Canyon, and Zion National Park. It was an amazing trip.
And then this past fall, we were in New England with more amazing experiences, including the Cranberry Harvest, Acadia National Park, and lots of other beautiful spots. And since we've had the van, the majority of the time that we've spent has been here in Florida and along the East Coast.
This winter, we got back to Florida in time for the holiday season. Then in February, we took in 3 van life gatherings: Van Fest, Schoolie Swarm, and Peace Lovin' Vans.
All of February and part of March, we were caravanning around Florida with some fellow nomads, showing them around some of the beautiful spots in Florida. And then that brings us to today. We are back mooch docking with family and gearing up for season 3. So after 5 years in the van, and obviously having very limited space, we have realized that there's a lot of things in here that we haven't used. So one of the things we've been doing is going through everything and discussing whether those things are going to stay or go. Now that we've been on the road for a while, we've realized there are a lot of things we thought we needed that we haven't used at all or don't really use much. With the limited space in our van, we have decided it's time to purge. One of the things that really needed an audit was the garage. Steve unpacked everything out of the garage, and we've been going through that stuff. Right now, we are inside. We've been mooch docking at our family's place for a little while, and it's where we actually have everything in storage, so that's where we are right now. This is where we have our closet where we store things. So most of the stuff in here is ours. Since we've been here in Florida for the winter, we've taken some things out of the van, some of our winter things, since we don't need them most of the time here. And we are now starting to think about our trip ahead, what we're going to need. Probably winter clothes again, so we're switching some things out, going through stuff, deciding what to pitch, what to keep here in storage, and what to put back in the van. So we've pulled a lot of things out of storage, especially clothes, and we're sorting through them right now.
So the next thing we need to go through and audit is this tote. And hopefully there's some things in here we can get rid of. What is this?
That's what I wore to prom last year. You want to try it on? So that's our clothesline, right?
Clothesline, we have some other rope.
We got extension cords and tablecloths that we've not used yet.
So
After sorting through everything, Steve put our bins back in the garage. We love seeing how much more space we have now. So we started with the garage because one of the most challenging things is we have our bikes and they take up a lot of space. And what else?
Well, it was an area that got out of control. We were just kind of throwing whatever we wanted to in there. And so it just made it a real challenge to get the bikes in and out. And I think that really kind of prevented us from using the bikes more and exploring more with the bikes. We just didn't want to deal with the hassle.
Yeah. So I love riding the bikes. I think you probably like it a little bit less than I do. And because they're a pain to get in and out, it's just, we don't use them very much. When we have used them, it's been great, but we actually have been discussing that quite a bit lately. We're actually considering e-bikes, but we're not quite there yet. So as we've been going through trying to make more space to make it easier to get the bikes in and out, there are several things we have realized we definitely need to take out. One is your basketball.
I had the best intentions. I had a basketball with us for, better part of 5 years now. And hoping that we would just stumble across parks and I would shoot some hoops or something, but just never happened. So, sadly, that's got to go.
A few other things. We have a comforter that we actually thought this was a great idea. We got vacuum bags that we actually put the comforter in the bag and you could suck the air out so it takes up less space. But I don't know. We have not used the comforter. We went west on our first trip. We were in some cold temperatures, and then we've even been up north in the wintertime in freezing temperatures. But somehow we've gotten away without using it. We just have 2 thinner blankets that we use, and we've got some other smaller blankets that we can put on top if we need it. But we've never used the comforter.
Right.
So as we were going through the bin, we looked in the bin, and the comforter probably took up, wouldn't you say, almost half of the bin?
A good third.
So we took that out, and we have a lot more space.
Yep.
Some other things, shower bag. We have not used the shower bag other than, I think, one time when we were in the Keys. Is that right?
Right.
But because it could come in handy, especially going out west sometime, we've decided to keep that. I think it's just a good idea to have, even though we've used it so little. Some of the other things, the air compressor.
That has come in handy just recently when we got a flat tire. So definitely going to keep that on board.
Yeah, so we actually did a review of the air compressor when we were in the Grand Canyon just with the bike tires, and we had not used it at all for the van, so you'd think, oh, that takes up a lot of space, but that's one of those things that we just learned it's really great to have. So that is staying. Let's see what else is on our list of things we've been talking about. Ladder. We've never used a ladder.
It's one of those things, though, and again, we've learned that the hard way is when you do need to get up on the roof. Since we don't have a built-in ladder with this van, you need some way to get up there. So thankfully, we haven't had the need to get up on the roof since that episode near the beginning of our van life journeys. But
yeah, the one time we would have needed a ladder, we didn't have one, so that's why we have a ladder.
Right.
So since then, it's been unused, but we definitely are keeping that in there. So other than that, there's just a bunch of smaller items. But I think that's pretty much what we purged from the back. And we have a lot more space after going through all that stuff.
Yep, should make getting the bikes in and out a lot easier.
Another thing that's been taking up some space is the Mr. Buddy gas heater that we have. So
yeah, it's one of those things, again, you think, oh, yeah, we might use this. We might be in a environment that is cooler and want to keep the van warm, but so far it just hasn't been our experience, so it was chewing up unnecessary space.
Yeah, it's quite large, and we've actually been amazed by how well we've been able to do in cold temperatures without any other heat source. Once in a while we run the van to heat it up, but that's only been like once or twice. I think we've insulated it so well and the van just holds heat so well that even down in like 26 to 28 range temperatures, we've actually been fine. And we've had some concerns about the Mr. Buddy because it's propane. There's some safety concerns, I think. Again, it just takes up a big chunk of space. So we decided it's going. Over the last few days, we have been going through the cabinets here in the kitchen, one at a time.
Trying to squeeze every last inch of space we can find.
It's looking pretty good. We've been getting rid of some things, sorting through a lot. There's a lot of empty space in there right now, I would say. And next up, we are going to do our floor-to-ceiling closet. We love having this floor-to-ceiling closet. It functions as a bit of a divider between the front living area and back sleeping area, and so much fits in it. We like that a full-length mirror fits on the back of the door, that we can hang some clothing, and fit a lot of other things in here. We emptied everything out of the closet to do inventory. One thing we're going through is grocery bags. You only need so many in a van, but we have decided that the Aldi bag is going to be the new lemonade bag. We had this old Trader Joe's bag. We've seen some better days, and we think this one will work better. So, upgrading to a better lemonade bag. So this is kind of funny. We start doing this and we get led down little bunny trails. So we had toilet paper up here in the big closet, and Steve thought that'd probably be better down in the kitty area. So that led to him going through the stuff down there. And I think one of the problems we have is that we actually forget what we have in here, even though it's still a small space. So I'm actually going to use a list on my phone and start writing down what we have so we don't forget.
Do you need this little thing?
That's the magic eraser. Those are great for cleaning up dirty walls. But we need to remember we have it.
I guess we do have space for a passenger. I'm all about minimalism, so let's just keep it like that.
So this is pretty funny. We keep finding things that we just didn't know we had. Like we have a first aid kit here with, for instance, cortisone cream. Steve had a rash recently on his arm, and we didn't think we had any, so we used some of Bill and Christina's. So because it's a small space and things are like tucked away, we just forget what we have. So it's nice to go through everything again. Maybe make some notes this time. Well, this is the majority of what we took out of the van, minus the Mr. Buddy gas heater, which we already returned to the neighbor who'd given it to us to begin with. As you can see, it's a decent amount of stuff. Here's the Brita that was taking up a lot of space where our pots and pans are. We've got some things that probably don't need anymore from Schooly Swarm. My prop for prom. And my slippers. We got these knowing they were ridiculous. They're huge. I thought maybe I'd use them as slippers in the van, but we just decided it's not practical. They take up way too much space. Steve's basketball. Purses. Alright, ladies, it's fun to have accessories and stuff, but when you live in 60 square feet or less, some things, it just doesn't make sense. So those have come out. We've got our old foot pump. I don't know why we kept this. Tablecloth. We had some silly props. A hat, Hawaiian lei, silly sunglasses. And here's the comforter that took up so much space in our garage. So it feels good to be getting some of that stuff out of the van. So after going through the cupboards up here, there wasn't as much stuff that we got rid of, but there were some smaller things. We got rid of some food storage containers. We had too many. We have learned as we've gone which ones fit best in our fridge and cupboards. So
yeah, it was just a lot of little things, but with van life, all those little things add up. So it's good every once in a while to audit your van and get rid of the things you haven't touched in a few years.
Yep, so there are some of those things, the kitchen kind of stuff. We got rid of some games. You always have certain ideas when you get on the road, and then it just plays out differently.
Right.
So we have some games that we're keeping, but we just don't have a lot of time for games. We're busy traveling and working and doing things, so we got rid of a few games that we have never played since we've been in the van. And then one of the bigger items was the Brita water filter. Steve actually brought that in because I'm a little bit of a water snob. I'm picky about water, but as we've traveled, I've just gotten used to different water, not as picky.
And we've only gotten diarrhea a dozen times, so it's all right.
Right. So, and the other thing too is I don't think the Brita really would make a difference if there was water that wasn't so great. In the future, maybe we'd need to find something else, but the Brita just wasn't being used. It wasn't useful, so
It wasn't a very practical thing.
yeah.
After all,
and it was taking up a decent amount of space, so that went also. One of the questions that people have asked several times is what would we change here in the van, and we often have said really nothing. I would say that how we do van life, we're pretty simple, easy to be pleased, and I would say we also have a pretty high pain tolerance when it comes to some things that might be an inconvenience in order to save money, right?
yeah, that's a beautiful thing about van life is to each their own, and your needs might be different than our needs, and so what we've done here is meeting our needs. And yeah, I agree that we certainly probably put up with a lot more than maybe some other people would as far as working conditions and things like that, but it works for us.
Yeah, we definitely do. But knowing that some of our travel habits or where we're going might look a little different in the future, I think it's caused us to look a little bit harder at how we're doing things. And also because we don't have the expense of a home other than this tiny home, I think that I'm willing to spend a little bit more to have things be a little bit more convenient. Is that a good way to explain it?
Right.
So we've been thinking about those things.
One of those things that's been on our list basically from the beginning, excuse me, is replacing our countertop. It's been on the list again from the beginning, and it's just something that we haven't been able to address, really. We haven't found a replacement for it.
Right. So it's basically just painted plywood. And while we've been back in Florida, we've been looking for something to replace it. We haven't found something that we like. So I basically just did something as a temporary solution. I mixed up some paint to match, and I just touched up, because basically what was happening is the front edge of the counter the paint was worn off. So I touched it up, and for now, I think that's good enough.
Right.
So I've taken these 3 colors, and I think it's actually turned out pretty well. Paint usually dries a little bit lighter, I believe, so I might make it a little bit darker, but actually we just have this spot here to touch up, so I don't think it matters, and I made way too much paint, but I'm going to go ahead and try it and see how it looks. So basically, it's from here over. Try it here and see how it looks. Whoa, that's pretty good. One lesson we've learned is that not everything has to be perfect. The bad part is that the white shows through, so I'll have to do this a couple times probably.
That's a pretty good match.
I'd say so.
For eyeballing it.
And I mixed it inside and then brought it out. So I touched it up, and for now, I think that's good enough.
Right. And there's nothing wrong with it. It's purely aesthetic.
Right.
So this piece of plywood will probably outlast the van, really. So, but still, hopefully one of these days we'll find a solution and actually replace it.
That looks a little nicer.
Yeah.
But it's not really a big deal. So beyond the aesthetics, I would say there's some functional things. And one of the things that I have been feeling more lately is frustration when we're trying to do work and we are at the library or Panera where the internet's not very good. And also, if we're in the van working on our computers, there's always the chance of running out of power or using up too much of our power. So we have started to consider getting more power and possibly Starlink. Bill and Christina are partly to blame for that because we went to some campgrounds with them, and I would say we got a little spoiled. It was nice, don't you think, to be at a campground for a couple days and to be able to work in the van or at a picnic table, use their Starlink, have unlimited power, and just not be running around so much and worrying about the hours at a library or Panera, or the noise at a Panera, or our VPN not working. So that's something that might change coming up in the future here soon. We'll see.
One of the things about van life is, especially for us, is feel like we're constantly kind of juggling our power needs and power supply. And especially if we're not driving or if it's cloudy outside and we can't rely on solar. So kind of landed on the fact that might as well just buy another unit. They are cheap enough, especially compared to what we were spending for electricity when we had a house. These units are becoming so cheap nowadays that it's not more than 3 or 4 months of what we would have spent for electricity alone when we had our house. So it's kind of a no-brainer. We kind of go back and forth wondering, oh, are we wasting money by going this route versus buying one bigger unit? But with our needs and the way things are set up now, we can't justify that space. So I think this is a bridge to solve a problem that we have. And if down the road we need a bigger unit, then we'll simply swap things out and make that change down the road. Because, again, the price is relatively cheap.
Something else that I've been thinking about is our toilet chair. I love how versatile it is, that we can actually use it to sit around the van. Like we can move the chair and work or do different things, or just sit here and relax. So that's great, but all it really is a bucket with some bags, a diverter, and a bottle for number one. And I would say it works okay. In the future, I would say this is not the top of our list, but something I've definitely thought of would be, at some point, it might be nice if we can find some kind of solution, whether it's using the same chair and come up with a little bit improved system or something. Maybe a composting toilet that's already out there somewhere. I don't know. That's just something that I've thought of that I might like to change in the van. Just make things a little bit easier. We usually find perfectly fine bathrooms at grocery stores, some gas stations, grocery stores, Walmarts, things like that. But sometimes it's nice not to have to worry about going in somewhere, especially if we're going to be on BLM land for a few days at a time. We mentioned getting rid of the Brita, but drinking water is something that we've talked about. I think with how we do van life here in the States, we have no problem. We have our bottles of water that we drink from, and it's easy to find places to refill them. I think the only time we would probably need to contemplate upgrading would be if we go to Baja, Mexico. I feel like we maybe don't have enough drinking water with us for something like that, and we'd probably need a way to purify the water more. We have a foot pump right now, so I don't think we could have a filtration system in our water pump setup, but we might have to look into some solutions like a Berkey or something like that. But we don't have to worry about that right now, because right now we're not planning to go to Mexico.
So I'm pretty good at doing laundry.
At Planet Fitness.
And other places.
That's true.
And for whatever reason, Audra's not quite satisfied with that option.
It works pretty well, but and we are really good at going a long time without doing laundry. One of the tips we can share is just buy more underwear, or turn your shirt inside out, or wear the same shirt over and over again. But no, seriously, Steve actually does often do laundry at Planet Fitness. I do sometimes. Sometimes I do underwear or smaller things. But it's kind of a pain to go to a laundromat. And we do that sometimes, and sometimes we do laundry when we're visiting friends or family. But there is one thing that I've seen, Haley and Jake, actually a couple that we watch that does van life, they have a laundry bag. It's like a dry bag, but it has like little nubs on the inside, so you can put the clothes in the bag, put your water in, some soap, and you actually can just kind of do this kind of thing to wash the laundry. So knowing that at some point we want to get out west and maybe be out for longer at a time away from civilization, that's maybe one thing worth looking into. And then we could also use it as a dry bag. So that's a kind of low on the list thing, but I thought it was worth mentioning because laundry's kind of important. You don't want to be too stinky. Something else that I've been thinking about that really hasn't come up for us in the last 5 years is kind of more of a safety scenario. We've been wondering, are we prepared for every situation, especially if we're more in remote areas? So That question was raised just recently when we needed the air compressor. We're glad we had that. But recently when we were at Peace, Love, and Vans, we listened to where the Russos share about boondocking on BLM land. So just thinking more about that, if we want to be somewhere that's a little bit more remote or that might be a little bit trickier to drive to, and we are pretty conservative about that, I thought, oh, do we need those traction, what are those called? Traction pads?
Traction boards.
Traction boards, or a bigger shovel. All we have is a tiny little trowel. So are there things that we can do just to be better prepared for any circumstance?
Since Canada confiscated our mace, I've been actively searching the internet for safety reasons, looking for a bazooka. So if you have any leads, let me know.
How about more seriously now? What is your thought on the traction boards and things like that?
I don't plan on going off pavement anytime soon, so that should take care of that.
But that's not true.
You shouldn't make fun of my little hand trowel. Little trusty fella.
But seriously, we have been out on BLM land where we try to not go where it's too rutted or bumpy, but it's definitely not pavement, so.
Right. So far, we've been pretty good. And, again, we're not going to go 4x4 off-roading. So if we can be careful and avoid those situations, I think we'll be all right. So after 5 years of van life, what's really jumped out at me is to each their own, right? We all have different needs. We all have different family requirements. We might have different pets or kids with us. Everyone's needs are different. So to each their own, and you find what meets your needs.
Yeah, you do what works for you, and I would say the biggest thing is, number one, realize you're going to need to be flexible, and number two, be prepared the best you can for any scenario.
Yep.
So we have tried to get to a point where we're ready for whatever comes. We try to think about the worst case scenario, best case scenario, and just have the things that we think we're going to need, have a plan in place. We mentioned we've had the solar panel fly off our roof, we've had a knock in the night, we had our van searched, we've had our Max Air break, we've had problems with our power unit, so things like that. And you just do the best you can. And overall, it's worth it, and we love it.
Yep. Highly recommend it.
Something else we have learned for sure, we need a lot less stuff than we thought we did. And the proof is here in our cabinets. We have got space. Whereas when we first started van life, this was all filled up. We didn't have extra space in our cabinets. Now here, obviously this changes if we get groceries and we add to this, but right now, all this space, now that we've gone through our closet, we have all of this empty space. We've got space down below. We really thought we needed a lot more stuff when we started out. And then over time we have just realized we don't need it all. Keep things simple and we are just fine. Would you agree, Kitty? Huh? You agree? Yeah? A lot less stuff, right? It's been an amazing 5 years of van life, and we look forward to more adventures. Next episode, we'll share our 10 favorite things about our van build after these 5 years of van life. We hope to see you then. In March 2020, Steve flew to Pennsylvania to get our van. It was an empty Enterprise rental cargo van. He drove it back to Florida, and as soon as they got back here, we got to work converting it. It took us about 2.5 years, but during that time, we traveled as much as we can. He drove it back to Florida, and as soon as he got back, we started converting it right away. And during that time, nope.
I always say we can just find a random creek and do it like they did in the olden times and smash our clothes against a rock.
This is where we're going to leave you for this episode. If you enjoy our videos, please consider becoming a patron by using the link on the screen that we've also included in the video description, along with information about today's adventure and our channel. A special thank you to all our patrons. We appreciate your ongoing support. Thanks for coming along with us on this van life adventure. Please take a second to hit the like button below, leave a comment to let us know you're watching, and click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Don't forget, you can also connect with us and see my photos of the places we visit on our Facebook and Instagram. See you next time for more adventure.